Tonight, someone near you will raise a glass. They will feel the warmth spread through their chest. Their shoulders will drop. Their laugh will get louder. You probably think this is a modern habit, a weekend thing, a Friday night thing. But the real answer is far stranger. Your taste for alcohol is not new. It is not even human. It is older than your species, older than fire, older than language itself. To understand why, you have to go back, way back, before cities, before farms, before anyone had ever planted a seed on purpose. Picture a forest floor millions of years ago. Fruit falls from the trees. Some of it lands softly. Some of it splits open. And once that fruit is open, something invisible gets to work. Wild yeast, floating in the air, lands on the sugary flesh. It begins to feed. And as it feeds, it produces a byproduct, ethanol, alcohol. This is fermentation. It happens on its own. No human involved, no recipe, just sugar, yeast, and time. So somewhere in the canopy, an early primate ancestor of yours picks up a piece of fallen fruit. It's a little soft, a little fizzy, and it tastes different, slightly sharp, slightly sweet. And inside that primate's body, something lights up. Researchers like biologist Robert Dudley have studied this exact moment for decades. Dudley proposed something called the Drunken monkey hypothesis. His idea is simple but powerful. Fruit-eating primates evolved a strong attraction to the smell and taste of ethanol because it was a signal of ripe, calorie-rich, ready-to-eat fruit. Think about that for a second. The smell of alcohol wasn't a warning sign to your ancestors. It was a dinner bell. And it gets even stranger. Around 10 million years ago, something changed inside the bodies of the ancestors of humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas. A single genetic mutation occurred in an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase. This enzyme breaks down ethanol in the body. Before this mutation, that breakdown was slow. After it, the enzyme became roughly 40 times more efficient. 40 times. Researchers Matthew Carrigan and Robert Dudley identified this mutation by comparing the digestive enzymes of humans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and other primates. What they found was that this genetic shift lines up almost exactly with a major change in primate lifestyle. Around that same time, some primate ancestors started spending less time in the trees and more time on the forest floor. Why does that matter? Because fruit on the ground is older, riper, more likely to have already started fermenting. An animal living on the forest floor was going to encounter alcohol in its food far more often than one living high in the canopy, surrounded by fresh fruit. So evolution adapted. The body of your ancestor got better at processing alcohol. Not because alcohol was good for them in large amounts, but because being able to safely eat slightly fermented fruit meant access to more food, more calories, more survival. In other words, your ability to drink a beer tonight without immediately collapsing traces back to a forest floor, millions of years before agriculture, before tools, before anything you would recognize as human history. Now fast forward, way forward, to around 13,000 years ago. In a place called Rakfet Cave, in what is now northern Israel, archaeologists found something unexpected: stone mortars carved into the bedrock. And inside those mortars, researchers found residue, starch granules, plant fibers, the chemical fingerprints of fermentation. A team led by archaeologist Li Lu analyzed this residue and concluded that people at this site were brewing something, a kind of ancient beer made from wheat, barley, and other plants, deliberately soaked and left to ferment. Here's the detail that should stop you in your tracks. This site is associated with the Natufian culture. The Natufians lived before farming existed, before anyone had domesticated wheat as a reliable crop. And yet, they were already brewing fermented drinks from wild grains. For a long time, the standard story was simple. Humans settled down. They started farming grain for bread. And alcohol came later, almost as an accident, a side effect of stored grain getting wet and fermenting. But evidence like Rakfet Cave suggests something different. It suggests that the desire to make alcohol may have existed before farming, that people were gathering wild grains specifically to brew them. Some researchers have even argued that the appeal of fermented drinks may have been one of the reasons humans started cultivating grain in the first place. Pause on that. The idea isn't that humans invented farming and then accidentally discovered beer. The idea is that the want for something like beer may have helped push humans toward farming. Why would that be worth all that effort? Why would early humans go to the trouble of grinding grain, soaking it, waiting for it to ferment, just to get a drink? Because of what alcohol does to the brain and to the group. When ethanol enters your body, it doesn't just relax your muscles. It interacts with your brain's chemistry. It increases the release of dopamine, the chemical tied to reward and motivation. It also affects a neurotransmitter called GABA, which slows down activity in parts of the brain responsible for anxiety and self-monitoring. In plain terms, alcohol quiets the part of your brain that worries, that watches what you say, that keeps your guard up around other people. For early humans living in tight social groups where trust, alliances, and cooperation were matters of survival, that effect would have been incredibly valuable. A shared drink could lower social barriers, make strangers feel like friends, even briefly, loosen tongues enough for people to bond, to negotiate, to celebrate together. Anthropologist Patrick McGovern, who has spent much of his career analyzing ancient pottery for traces of alcohol, has argued that fermented beverages may have played a major role in the development of early communities. His chemical analyses of pottery from sites in China, the Middle East, and beyond have found alcohol residues stretching back thousands of years, often appearing alongside evidence of feasting, ritual, and gathering. So picture it. A group of early humans sitting around a fire. Someone passes around a container of something fermented. The mood shifts. People talk more, laugh more. The usual tension between groups, between strangers, eases just a little. That moment, multiplied across thousands of years and thousands of groups, may have helped shape how humans formed larger, more cooperative societies. Here's where it gets even more interesting. This isn't just a human story. Scientists have observed wild chimpanzees in West Africa drinking naturally fermented palm sap, which can contain a noticeable amount of alcohol. Researchers documented chimpanzees repeatedly seeking out this fermented sap, using leaves as makeshift sponges to soak it up and drink it. Elephants have long been the subject of stories about getting drunk on fermented fruit, and while some of those stories are exaggerated, the underlying idea that wild animals seek out and consume naturally fermenting fruit is well documented across many species. So when you think about why you enjoy that drink tonight, you're not just looking at a cultural habit, you're looking at the tip of a very long evolutionary thread, a thread that runs through forest floors, through ancient grain mortars, through campfires, and straight into your living room. Your brain still responds to alcohol the way it did for your distant ancestors. The dopamine release, the quieting of social anxiety, the sense of ease. None of that is new. It's ancient machinery, running in a modern body. Which brings us to a strange thought. Every time you feel that small wave of relaxation from a drink, you are experiencing something that helped shape the social world of early humans. Something that may have nudged your ancestors toward farming, toward settling down, toward building the first communities. So tonight, when someone raises a glass and feels their shoulders drop, just a little, they're not doing anything new at all. They're doing something your ancestors were doing around fires more than 10,000 years ago. And something their ancestors, swinging through the trees, were doing millions of years before that.